He went out to Egypt for us, what was it, last week? And
last week, Glenn, yeah.
And came back and said, Glenn, the whole thing is about to be a powder keg, and we're headed for some really tough times. Yes.
And it is, and they gang raped another journalist in Tahrir Square, this time a Dutch journalist. And her condition is severe. She's hospitalized now.
Oh, my gosh.
And this just keeps happening there.
And this is now the official, the Globe in the history books can now officially say that William Crystal is a moron. Because he said this is a glorious Arab Spring. We said this is going to be much, much worse. And I remember distinctly saying, it never ends with the people who started it. The only revolution that has ever happened is the American Revolution. It always goes from dictator to thugs to worse dictator. And that's about I think that's what's going to happen. Buck?
Glenn, one of the most amazing things here is that it really is deja vu all over again. They have not had a democracy for very long. Already, after seeing that street protests don't necessarily lead to Jeffersonian democracy, that just coming out and saying we want something better, there's a lot of hard work that goes into creating a civil society and a functioning pluralistic democracy. That hard work has not been done. It's largely fallen on the Muslim Brotherhood to mess this up, but it's not like it would have been easy for anybody in the circumstance. As to what's happening right now, the Muslim Brotherhood's like, oh, okay, you're giving us an ultimatum? Guess what? We're going with the or what phase of this, as in step down or what. You're not getting a lot of this, and one of the good things about having been there last week on the ground, Glenn, is I have sources that can update me, instantaneously through either cell phone texts or emails. And what they're telling me is that there are people, for example, at the Muslim Brotherhood protests who are training with sticks and nunchucks, actually. So they're kind of going with the ninja motif in order to make sure they're prepared for street clashes. These are not people that sound like they're about to say, you know what, you're right. Okay, military, let's not call this a coup, even though it technically is, and let's just give up power. This is the Muslim Brotherhood. These are the guys that produced Ayman al-Zawahiri. These are the guys that gave al-Qaeda its foundational ideology.
These are the guys.
No biggie.
These are the guys that we're supporting. These are the guys that we have held up. And I warned when I was at Fox, don't do this. Don't do this. You think the people of Egypt hate us now. You're handing it over to the Muslim Brotherhood. They can say whatever they want. They are very bad people. Very bad people. And we've done it anyway.
The unintended consequences here are the thing that no one's really looking at or talking about. Even if the military is successful, and it's literally an hour-by-hour thing, there's a deadline. I mean, think about this. The military's told the duly elected, granted odious and hateful, but the duly elected government of Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, and they've said, you guys are no longer running the show. Well, the Muslim Brotherhood's not about to go away. They didn't go away when Mubarak was throwing them in dungeons and torturing them. They don't really care about what this whole democracy thing is all about. It was just a means to an end for them anyway. So the fact that they may step down or they may not, Glenn, is not going to change. That this country is effectively going to become ungovernable. You're going to have a 90 million person mess, and it's going to be very close to, if not devolving directly into anarchy, unless somebody's able to bring things together here. I mean, just coming out and protesting doesn't make all the problems go away.
May I suggest, Buck, that here's what's going to happen, and you correct me where I'm wrong. The military is going to step in, and they're going to make military rule, but they don't want to rule, and they will hold new elections. And who will win? The Muslim extremists that make the Muslim Brotherhood look like rookies. And you are going to have a theocracy happening in Jason. What's the name of that? The Salafis, right? The Al Noor Party.
Salafists, yeah.
Yeah. Those guys are going to take control of Egypt, and the military will help them do it. And it's not like they want them to. They just will clamp down. They don't want to rule. They'll hold elections, and those guys will win. Agree or disagree?
You're asking the question. No, look, this is a distinct possibility, but more importantly, I think you're asking the question that so many Middle East analysts and watchers and people in the media are refusing to ask, which is, what does this do? What does this set in place if the Muslim Brotherhood is forced to step down? Look, the fact is that they were being shown, they were exposed here as being inept, as being sort of wannabe theocrats a glorified soup kitchen at best. That's what the Muslim Brotherhood was, with a very nasty ideology, but in terms of what they were actually able to accomplish on the ground. Now, if they get pushed aside, and you're pointing out the Noor Party, there are crazier people than the Muslim Brotherhood. And by the way, they won substantial seats in the last round of parliamentary elections. Those people, not the ones in Tahrir Square, not the ones that are talking to media, the ones in the rest of Egypt, the tens of millions who are very religious, are very devout, they're going to say, oh, this whole democracy thing, that's kind of a joke, isn't it? Because when somebody wins and then some people don't like it, they get the military to get them to step down. I'm not saying that's how I see it, but that's how they're going to see it. And you're essentially pulling the Muslim Brotherhood out of the fire in a sense here, because if they do get pushed aside or have to do some power sharing, not only has the democratic process been, look, they've undermined it too, but two wrongs still make a right. On top of that, their ineptitude is being covered up by mobocracy, essentially. I mean, this is really dangerous stuff. And I know everyone wants to wave flags in the air and say, oh, great, the people are in power. But it's much more complicated than that, and no one wants to talk about it except for apparently you.
Okay,
so
well,
here's where we are.
Here, let me and Buck, help me out with this analogy, because I think the way to explain this to the American people is you had the Tea Parties, but you also had Occupy Wall Street out 2 years ago because they knew this was not a good thing. What Egypt didn't have was the Tea Party, which was saying, but here's the plan. It is a constitutional republic, and you abide by this constitution, which we know works. So you didn't have that over in Egypt, but you basically had everybody out on the street. You had the good guys and the bad guys all out saying we want Mubarak. And what Mubarak is, what the Muslim Brotherhood is the acorn of the Muslim world. They have really nasty ideology. They are, in America terms, you would elect a community organizer who is completely inept at governing anything. And because they were so far on the edge, worse than we are, that thing just started spiraling out of control. So the Acorn people, who are in bed with the Bill Ayers and the Weather Underground and the Black Panthers and the communists and everything else, they can't control it. So now you go back, and now you have the Occupy Wall Street people, along with the Tea Party people without a constitution, and everybody else. But now they're starting to listen to the people, the Bill Ayers, the Weather Underground, the Black Panthers, and the communists. And that's who now has a chance of taking power. So you've lost the Acorn, as much as a bad thing that was, and still had the same philosophy as the Weather Underground. Now you're getting the killers coming in. Good example or not?
Glenn, what I think you're getting to here is what is the sort of the glue that holds Egyptian society together. In this country, it's the Constitution. Over there, it's quite honestly various forms of Islam. I mean, the one unifying factor is an Islamic worldview. It is, forget about the people wearing designer jeans in Tahrir Square who are on Twitter all the time. In the rest of the country, in Upper Egypt, in the Nile regions, in the Upper Nile, you have people who are very religious and believe in Sharia law. You have people who are not pro-Western. You have people who do not have favorable views of Israel. The issue that's come up now is just holding elections does not give us the outcome that we want here. When I say we, I mean anybody that believes in sort of pluralistic, pro-Western, civil rights, etc. And now, by taking power out of the hands of the Muslim Brotherhood, they have cemented this narrative, and I think this is what you're saying, that not only do we have these radicals now who are able to say, look, they're not serious about democracy, they don't believe in their principles. The guys who look like they've been playing it straight all along are the hardline Islamists, guys who say, look, Islam is the answer, Islam is the only thing we need here, we need Sharia law. All of this sort of pluralistic, we're all going to have everybody vote thing is collapsing, it's a fraud, it's a joke. They're all pawns of the military. Pawns of Israel, by the way. I mean, the anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists are just having a field day with this in Egypt. Now the far extreme Islamic parties have an opportunity to say the other side are bad actors in this. They won't play by the rules they're willing to set up. And that's why I said to you before, Glenn, nobody knows where this thing shakes out. Anybody who says so is quite honestly not even paying attention to recent history because we thought it was all going to be fine the last time they gathered in Tahrir Square. It is deja vu all over again.
Buck, thank you very much. I have to make one amendment to that. No, some of us did know what was coming. This is exactly what we predicted, and I can tell you what's going to happen next. Never, ever, ever screw around with people who are willing to die because God tells them to die. In the end, the extreme hardliner Islamists are the ones that will take power of Egypt, and they will do it in Syria as well, and they will do it eventually in Turkey, and you are going to see the restoration of a caliphate, and it is bad news for Israel. It is death for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people all across the globe when this thing actually shakes down. Buck Sexton, thank you very much. You can hear Buck on the Blaze at all times. By the way, the Blaze site to get that deal right now is theblaze.com/free DVD. And Buck is the only guy, and I'm the only other guy, that is actually covering Egypt the way it needs to be covered. And this is very important that you know it. And the only place you can get it is The Blaze. Theblaze.com/free DVD. Sign up for the annual subscription and get the DVD of The Man in the Moon free.